Ohidur's brief questions with answers on Osborne's play Look Back in Anger. When was Osborne born? He was born on the 12th of December 1929 in a London suburb. When did he die? He died on the 24th of December 1994. What was his father's name? His father's name was Thomas Godfrey. What was his father's profession? His father was a commercial artist. How old was the author when his father died? His father died when the author was 12. What was his mother's name? Her mother's name was Nellie Beatrice. What was his mother? She was a barmaid. What did she do to her son? She sent him to a faraway boarding school after his father's death. How did the author feel at school? He was so unhappy that she left his school in 1949. And that was the end of his education. What did Osborne try? He tried his talent and started acting at the Empire Theatre in Sheffield. What was his first play? His first play was No Room at the Inn. What happened to him? Soon he became an actor cum manager cum playwright. Who were his collaborators? In collaboration with Stella Linden he wrote The Devil Inside Him and with Anthony Creighton Personal Enemy. What was his third play? He wrote a quite popular play Epitaph for George Dillon. Which play reputed him as a dramatist? At the age of 26 he achieved the reputation by writing the play Look Back in Anger. What is Look Back in Anger? It is a play by John Osborne. Was it a hit? It was not a hit, but soon Osborne was recognized as a talented dramatist. Mention the dramas he acted in. He acted in Don Juan, The Death of Satan, Cards of Identity and The Good Woman of Setson. Mention some other dramas he wrote during the next 10 years. He wrote among others The Entertainer, The World of Paul Stickey, Luther and Inadmissible. Tell about his anger. Like Jimmy, he was known as an angry young man. What was the turning point in the English theatre? The first night when Look Back in Anger was staged at the Royal Court Theatre in 1956 was the turning point in the English theatre. How was his popularity? He won many awards and distinctions. What happened to some of his plays? Some plays were made into films. What was remarkable in his life? His married life was remarkable because he married 4 times. Who was Pamela Elizabeth? She was an actress and became his wife in 1951. How long did the married life last for? It lasted for 6 years. What was then interesting? In the same year he tied a knot with another actress, Mary Ewer, who even acted successfully as Alison at the first production. How was the year 1963 important in his life? It was the end of his second marriage and the beginning of the third with Penelope Gilliatt, a journalist. What happened next in his marital life? The third marriage was dissolved in 1967 and the fourth marriage with Jill Bennett took place in the following year. In which part of the day does the play open? Early Sunday, chilly evening in April. Where and how many rooms are in the flat? 1-room flat in a large Midland town. Where is the room? At the top of a large Victorian house. What kind of a room is it? A fairly large attic room. What kind of furniture is there? Mostly simple and rather old. Who is the protagonist in the play? Jimmy Porter is the main character. The play revolves round him. What are Jimmy and Cliff seen doing in the opening of the play? They are reading the Sunday newspapers, and simultaneously Jimmy is making a lot of fuss regarding the paper stories. How does he treat Cliff? He considers Cliff ignorant and does not refrain from snubbing him at the slightest excuse. What is the common scene in the play? Alison irons the clothes ceaselessly and Jimmy keeps on scolding his wife. Who is Jimmy unhappy with? Jimmy is unhappy with Alison, his wife. How old are Jimmy, Alison, Cliff and Helena? They are all about the same age. That is 25. Who is Welsh ruffian? According to Jimmy, Cliff Lewis is Welsh ruffian. Who is Helena? Helena is Alison's friend and an actress. Who is a complex personality? Jimmy Porter is rather a complex personality from the intellectual angle. What kind of persons are Alison and Cliff compared to Jimmy? Both are simple compared to Jimmy. What is Jimmy keenly dissatisfied with? Jimmy is keenly dissatisfied with his life. Throughout the play, what does Jimmy do? He keeps on raging against things, denouncing people and giving expression to his disgruntlement and bitterness in endless rhetoric. Who else is important from the psychological point of view? Alison Porter is also important. What makes Alison suffer passively? Her husband's continuous bad words and domineering attitude. What does Alison do in the beginning of Jimmy's attitude? She reacts and protests against his ill treatment for a brief period. What does she do ultimately against the treatment? She surrenders submissively as of no use. Who are men of working class? Both Jimmy and Cliff are of working class. Which class does Alison belong to? She comes from an upper-middle class family. What is wrong with the social disparity? The social disparity between the spouses is one significant reason of conjugal unhappiness. Can Jimmy reconcile himself to the upper classes? No, he cannot, mainly because he is a social rebel. What is Jimmy's educational qualification? He is well educated as he has graduated from a university. Is Jimmy working in a prestigious office by dint of his higher education? No, he is not. On the other hand, he is earning his livelihood by running a sweet stall. Is there any contribution of Cliff to Jimmy's business? Yes, there is. Cliff keeps on assisting him to run the business. What makes Jimmy stick to this trifle business? As a university graduate, he has tried his hand at many other occupations but could not manage to stay with any of them. What may be the other reason of Jimmy's dissatisfaction with life? The other reason is the fact that the society has not treated him properly. Why does Jimmy think he is unwanted by society? He has tried enough to build a suitable career but he has turned unsuccessful. May Jimmy be regarded as a maladjusted person? He is surely a maladjusted person not just at home but also outside. What does Alison begin when Jimmy says he begins to talk about something? She begins to yawn. Who tries to stop Jimmy's repeated complaints against Alison? Cliff Lewis. What irritates Jimmy the most? Alison's frequent ironing. What does Cliff say about Jimmy's hunger? Cliff calls Jimmy a glutton who will set up some kind of record for overeating. What are Jimmy's complaints against Sunday? The routine remains the same every Sunday: reading the papers, drinking tea and ironing. How many other posh papers on Sunday according to Jimmy? 2. What does Jimmy read and comment about the bishop? The bishop is upset because someone has expressed the bishop's supporting the rich against the poor. Interestingly, Jimmy says that Alison's father has written it. Why are Cliff and Alison indifferent to Jimmy's criticism? Cliff has suggested to Alison not to react with Jimmy's criticism, which he does intentionally. What drives Jimmy mad? The indifference of Cliff and Alison. Who is Alison's father? Colonel Redfern, who was the commander of a Maharaja's army in an Indian state till 1947. When did the British have no alternative to quitting India? In 1947. What effect did it have to Colonel Redfern? As he spent a heavenly life in India, he could not forget those days. He kept remembering the past with a sense of nostalgia and remained dissatisfied with his life in England. What was like a dream to the Colonel? His living in India was like a dream. He wished that the life that could have continued forever. What did Colonel Redfern express about India? His evenings up in the hills were long and cool, everything was purple and golden, which was also enjoyable to Alison's mother. What kind of a comment Jimmy made to the Colonel's life in India? Jimmy made a mocking and sarcastic reference to his life, which must have been unbearable to Alison. What was the Colonel sorry about? He expressed his sorrows for his opposition to Alison's marriage. He regretted at the fact that his wife had gone too far and engaged private detectives to spy into Jimmy's activities. When did the Colonel stop talking about Alison's leaving? As soon as Alison insists that she must leave him. How comic was Colonel Redfern? His nostalgia seems comic as he kept reminiscing about his years in India. How pathetic was the Colonel? His failure to adjust himself to the changes of his lifestyle in England indicates that he is really a pathetic character. What makes the Colonel admirable? His sense of rationality and impartiality makes him admirable. What does Cliff Lewis think about Jimmy's behavior with Alison? Jimmy always persecutes and harasses Alison. What does Cliff try to do about Alison? Cliff always tries to defend Alison against Jimmy. He makes efforts constantly to bring peace between them. How confident was Cliff to Alison? Alison confides him so much that she does not hesitate to inform him of her pregnancy before Jimmy, though she happened to have failed to inform Jimmy of it. What did Cliff do about her leaving? He tried for some excuses but none worked. He asked her to leave after Jimmy's return from London. He also suggested that she herself should give Jimmy her letter. He then expresses his dissatisfaction as this house would lose much of its charm. What did Cliff do about her leaving? He tried for some excuses but none worked. He asked her to leave after Jimmy's return from London. He also suggested that she herself should give Jimmy her letter. He then expresses his dissatisfaction as this house would lose much of its charm. How did Cliff take Helena after Alison's departure? Cliff could not take Helena easy. He feels rather irritated and communicates with Helena improperly. He hands over Alison's letter to Helena. Then he tells her to pass it on to her Jimmy and goes out. What should have been the case between Alison and Cliff? The intimacy between them is remarkable, especially when we see they hug each other and live alone together. Still, Alison informs Helena of their closeness without any sexual involvement. It ennobles both Alison and Cliff. What does Alison tell Helena about her relation with Cliff? It's just a relaxed, cheerful sort of thing, like being warm in bed. You're too comfortable to bother about moving for the sake of some other pleasure. What does it imply regarding the sexual understanding of the couple? It seems that both have a sexual harmony. Other than that, there is hardly any understanding between Jimmy and Alison. She hesitates even to inform Jimmy of her pregnancy. How is the relation between Cliff and Jimmy? Cliff is also informal to Jimmy. Whenever Jimmy bothers Cliff a lot, he does not hesitate to retaliate, hurt or harm back, revenge. Which class does Helena belong to? She belongs to the middle class but possesses a sense of matriarchal female-dominated authority as reflected by her attitude and behavior with the inmates. It seems most men would be anxious to please and impress her. Contrarily, Jimmy is extremely impervious to her power and pride. How is Alison a lady of endurance? In fact, her attitude of forbearance towards Jimmy is most remarkable and admirable. Jimmy's sarcastic remarks and abusive language about her and her whole family hurt her a lot but cannot provoke her to react, except sometimes in the early part of their marriage. Is Alison contented in the married life? Not at all. The mismatch in the marriage is all that makes it so. If Jimmy were not as he is, Alison would certainly be contented in the conjugal life. Even when she is from an upper middle class, still she does not demand anything which she certainly deserves. Why did Jimmy marry Alison? According to Alison, Jimmy married her from the motives of revenge, mainly because of her upper class than his working class. He cannot tolerate it because of his inferiority complexity. What made Alison come back to Jimmy? Her loss of the unborn baby must have horrified her. If otherwise, she would be happy with the child. The unconscious longing for another child may be one reason, and the other one is the loneliness incurred by the same loss. How does Alison show her generosity to Helena at the end? Instead of punishing Helena severely, she tells her that she has no desire to break her relation with Jimmy. She further tells that she has come to relieve her hysterical, panic-stricken feeling or melancholic, miserable, sad state. What does the attic apartment mean? It expresses the theme of tranquil, calm and peaceful and without noise, violence, worry, etc. domesticity and working-class life. This is contrasted by Jimmy's violent anger. Actually, nothing seems ordinary as it looks outwardly. Who can be considered the moral compass of the play? Helena can certainly be considered so. It is true that Helena has a strong sense of right or wrong. As a result, she makes a proper judgment. It is also true that her relationship with Jimmy is strongly immoral, but still it is an illusion of love. Who is food maniac, crazy for food? Bothered by Jimmy, Cliff calls him a bloody pig and food maniac. According to Cliff, he has an insatiable, unquenchable hunger which will force him to steal vegetables and to be imprisoned. How old is Helena Charles? She is also of Alison's age, about 25. Describe Helena's physique in a few words. She is mediocre in height but cautiously outfitted. What makes Helena stay longer? It is rather mysterious. Jimmy bluntly asks her why she is not leaving after a week. Still she does not leave the house. She even tells him that Alison asks her to stay on, which is impossible. Who is the most elusive, difficult to describe personality? Alison Porter, according to the author. Who is in the red shirt? Alison looks gorgeous in the red shirt while ironing. Describe Alison's physique. Anne's. She is tall, slim and dark with eyes large and deep. What is Alison's speciality, though annoying to Jimmy? Her virginity seems too good to Jimmy, as if an untouched woman has deceived him in some strange way. What does Alison not mention in her letters to her mother? She never mentions Jimmy's hatred and humiliating attitude to her family. Has this ever changed? Neither has Jimmy changed this attitude, nor has Alison ever mentioned it in letters. How generous and forgiving is Alison towards Helena. Even after her knowing of Helena's living with Jimmy, Alison has not misbehaved with her. Who instigates and influences Helena to leave Jimmy? It is Helena who does so, but she herself starts living till Alison returns. Where did Alison have to live with Jimmy after marriage? In Hugh's apartment immediately after her marriage. What was shocking to Alison there? Hugh's crudeness and bad manners. Who else did Alison not like there either? Hug's mother, Mrs. Danner, even when Jimmy has the highest regard and respect for the lady, and she herself established Jimmy in his sweet stall. Where should Alison have accompanied Jimmy? At a crucial moment to see Mrs. Danner to London. She has not even sent a bunch of flowers to her funeral. Compare Alison's ironing and Jimmy's playing on his trumpet. They are irritating to each other equally. The difference is that Alison remains tolerant and silent, but Jimmy keeps on attacking her. How is Jimmy indignant about Alison's passion? He describes Alison's passion by comparing it to a python's and goes far to term it a devouring passion. Who is a spiritual barbarian? According to Alison, Jimmy is such a character. What she means is that Jimmy is rather callous to realize the feelings of others or to sympathize with them. Was there any happy moment? The only happy moments were while playing the bears and squirrels game. In the game they forgot the reality and imagined themselves as animals. Why did Alison leave Jimmy? Because of Jimmy's continuous ill treatment since their marriage, and at the same time being influenced by Helena, Alison left Jimmy. What happens to Alison afterwards? She had an accidental abortion which makes her suffer deeply, which is natural to any other woman. How does Alison look when she returns to Jimmy? She looks devastated, groveling and crawling. When does Helena leave? Helena has expressed her regrets and left before Alison's reconciliation with Jimmy. What does the reconciled couple do at the end of the drama? They play the same bears and squirrels game. What is Jimmy's addiction? He is addicted to pipe smoking. How does Jimmy look? According to the author, he is a tall, thin young man of about 25. What does Jimmy do after Helena's slap? He kisses her. In the beginning, what is Alison doing? She is ironing. What is the game Jimmy begins with Alison? The bear and squirrel game. What had Jimmy organized? He had organized a jazz band. What do Alison, Cliff and even Helena not like? They do not like Jimmy's playing his trumpet. What does Colonel Redfern say that Jimmy has done to Alison? He has taught Alison a great deal. Why does Jimmy say he will never be fat? Jimmy says he burns everything up. What does Jimmy accuse of sending? Alison should have sent flowers to Hugh's mother. Where did Alison's father live and work before retiring to England? in India. Who are left on the stage at the end? Jimmy and Alison. Which part of the paper is Jimmy disgusted with? He is disgusted with the book reviews in particular. What does Helena threaten Jimmy? She threatens Jimmy to slap. Who was going to visit Alison in the first act? Helena. What do Jimmy and Helena tell about Alison after her return towards the end of the play? Alison looks ill. Which word means wanting in firmness of mind? Pusillanimous. When does Alison's father come to take Alison? The next day of Helena's phone call. How many leather armchairs do they have? 2. What has happened to Alison's arm when Cliff and Jimmy drop on her? Her arm has burned. Hat is Cliff's surname? Lewis. Why is the Colonel hanging around according to Jimmy? Colonel Redfern is hanging around the Edwardian wilderness. Where does Cliff kiss Alison's hand? What secret does Alison impart to Cliff? Alison is pregnant. Why does Helena say that Jimmy is so futile? Helena claims that Jimmy never grew up. What does Cliff do with Alison's fingers? He puts Alison's fingers in his mouth. What makes Jimmy angry on the wedding night? He discovers that Alison was a virgin. What does Jimmy do when Alison collapses at his feet? Jimmy holds Alison. How many rooms are in the apartment? Only one. Do they have a television? Anne's. Yes, they do. What does Jimmy say about it? Anyone who doesn't like real jazz, hasn't any feeling for music or people. What is Jimmy interested on radio? Listening to a musical concert. What does Jimmy curse? He curses things and people since he is an angry young man. Who is Nigel? Nigel is Alison's brother who was a soldier in the British Army. How does Jimmy make fun about Nigel? He will become a parliament member but cannot go out of his stupidity. How does Jimmy call Alison's family? He criticizes the family severely by terming the members sycophantic, phlegmatic and pusillanimous. What does Jimmy explain pusillanimous? He checks the dictionary and defines the word wanting of firmness of mind, of small courage, having a little mind, mean-spirited, cowardly, and timid of mind. What does Jimmy talk about Nigel? He terms Nigel by saying the straight-backed, chinless wonder from Sandhurst. Does the explanation hurt Alison? Yes, it does very much. Still she resumes her ironing. What did Jimmy learn from his childhood miseries? He learned a lot about love, betrayal and death more than Helena can for all her life. What makes Jimmy angry frequently? His father's miserable life before death was so shocking and unforgettable that he gets angry frequently. How courageous is Helena? She is valiant in the sense that she tells Jimmy openly about his bad manners. She even tells Alison that Jimmy is a savage. What does Helena do to Alison? She influences Alison strongly to leave him. What makes Helena impulsive after Alison's leaving? She slaps Jimmy and kisses him suddenly. What should not Helena have done with Jimmy? She should not have lived together with Jimmy. What does Helena realize in the end of the play? She realizes her wrongdoing with Jimmy and leave them afterwards. What is one of the dominant roles in Look Back in Anger? Jimmy's marital life certainly plays a dominant role in the play. Is such a callous and crude husband Jimmy wanted for Alison? No, he is never. Not just for Alison but for any woman Jimmy is unwanted. How does the audience take Alison? The audience definitely sympathizes with Alison's miseries in her conjugal life due to Jimmy's inhuman treatment with her. What cannot Alison hide? She cannot hide her indifference to Jimmy as he keeps on irritating her. How gentle is Alison? She is not only gentle but also submissive and proportionately considerate. How does Alison deal with Jimmy's complaints? She does not believe in retaliation nor in overreaction. She remains silent, though she used to react in the earlier days of their conjugal life. Is Alison flexible? Yes, she is. She takes things easy, and relaxes when she is troubled by Jimmy. When was she adamant in her decision? She does not listen to Cliff's advice of waiting for Jimmy's return from London. She even ignores her father's warning of thinking longer while taking a serious decision. How endurable is Alison? She is never spineless. Still she remains calm when Jimmy keeps on attacking her and her family verbally. What is unforgettable about Alison? Her power of fortitude is really unforgettable. Her resilience is obviously noteworthy. When does Alison break her patience? She breaks her fortitude when she has decided to leave Jimmy mainly for the unavoidable influence from her friend Helena. What happens to Alison after leaving Jimmy? She had a miscarriage. Later she returns to Jimmy groveling and crawling mainly for her fate. What makes her return to Jimmy? The after effect of the miscarriage made her destitute mentally and physically. As a result she returns to Jimmy for the comfort of companionship, help and support. What is Look Back in Anger considered to be? The play is considered to be a kitchen sink drama or realism. What does it mean? A drama that depicts the deep meanings and psychology of the ordinary British working class people. What does Alison tell her father about him and her husband? You're hurt because everything is changed. Jimmy is hurt because everything is the same. And neither of you can face it. The end. You've just watched Brief Questions with Answers on Osborne's drama Look Back in Anger, voiced by Ivona, written and filmed by Ida, Assistant Professor of English at universities. Please consider subscribing to my channel for more videos. Thank you very much.